There we go. All right. I don't know why Voicemeeter is forgetting my microphone, but anyway, I'm back now. So greetings to you all. Hello to you all. I'm sorry you missed the intro music. I didn't know it wasn't playing. I don't know why Voicemeeter disconnects the audio. But anyway, Doomsword, Dying Breed, Death Angels, Derek, The Heretic, GM Jacko, let's see, who else is up there? Damien, Derek, Dying Breed, Doomsword, Death Angels. Did I miss any Ds? Collecting Chaos, hello. We're fine. The audio is fine now. You guys have to drop a super chat to hear the audio. Only super chat gets audio. I'm kidding. Of course, the super chat thing is always a jape, if you will. Anyway, to go back to what I was saying, if you have jacked up sleep cycles like I do, your circadian rhythms were taken out and Minecrafted in the noggin. This is your second show today. Of course, if you were out on the West Coast, this is your first, because you would have been watching it last night at 11 o'clock. That's right. I ran from like 12:45 Eastern until a little after 2, which I think is the latest start finish I've ever done. So collecting, you heard the intro music. Okay, that's good. But anyway, so yeah, I just did kind of a thing last night, and that kind of goes into why we're not doing Conflict tonight. That's on me. Kyle was unsure of what I was going to be doing. My co-host Kyle, the host of the most from Down Under, the Thunder from Down Under, was unsure if I had recovered from my staying up ridiculously late. And I had mostly, but I hadn't let him know that, so he didn't get together tonight's Conflict game. And I wasn't going to put him on the spot at 7:45 and say, no, we're gaming. So, anyway. But tonight, we've got some stuff we can get into. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a couple of very fun guests on. Let me see. Let me pull up the email here. But tomorrow night, we're having Tracy Lesh and Brian Cody on. You guys know Tracy. You don't know Brian, but you're going to know him by the end of tomorrow's show. Brian is part of a comic book studio. They have a comic based on their D&D adventures. Tracy's done the covers for. We're going to talk about that with them tomorrow night, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Friday night, I'm thinking Friday night we're going to play the AD&D that you guys missed last night, but on Friday night. You see how that works. So I'm going to get my reading glasses so I can see what you guys are saying and see those big super chats you're going to be dropping. Sorry, I'm awful. By the way, if you don't know what we do around here, first of all, we're at 49.79 on the subscriptometer. We are that close to 5,000 subs, which I'm really kind of amazed about. So we're going to be doing that. Sorry, I got distracted. We do this thing 5 nights a week. A first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and other tabletop role-playing game and associated live streams. 5 nights a week. You get that. So if you're just stopping by, if YouTube has brought you here, if you've washed up on the shores of YouTube and you don't know exactly 100% what's going on, that's a little bit of it. Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. That's always super helpful. And remember that tonight's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Hellebarde Games. Hellebarde makes the kind of adventures that they'd like to play. Whether it's for Castles and Crusades, for 5th edition, or the OSR, Old School is in play at the table with Hellebarde Games. And you can check them out on their website, hellebardegames.com, or Drive Through RPG. That's Hellebarde Games. So, yeah, 5 nights a week. We're here. We're here doing this thing. I bring it to you guys because I care about you and I care about classic D&D like nobody else does. First edition AD&D, baby. All the way, every day. And tonight we're going to talk about we're going to talk about some first edition AD. We're going to dive in on some AD&D stuff tonight. Now, I have been slowly trying to get out there to you guys the importance of understanding first edition AD&D in a very real sense, particularly if you're going to be dungeon mastering. So you might call what we've been talking about how to dungeon master first edition AD&D in these live streams. And I do it live rather than in little bite-sized pieces because, I mean, what do you want? 6-10-minute videos that are all broken up? Or a live stream where you can ask questions? And I would hope you'd go, well, a live stream where I can ask questions. But anyway, so let's have a gander at some first edition AD&D tonight as we sort of look at something I think is pretty important. Now, the last time, if you missed the last time we talked about this, which was last Thursday, I believe, or maybe it was after then. No, I think it was last Thursday. We talked about the import of leveling your character properly, of 1 gold piece ostensibly equaling 1 experience point, and so on. Now, if you look at the Dungeon Master's Guide, and you look at the XP value of monsters, let's do this. Let's open the Dungeon Master's Guide. Everybody grab your Dungeon Master's Guides, and we're going to do this together. So share screen, window, share, and share. So let's grab our Dungeon Master's Guides. There is conveniently an index, an appendix rather. Go down here. Alphabetical recapitulation of monsters. So let's jump over there. We're not going to be looking at any particular one. Let me just zoom this in real quick. Let's just zoom this in. And let me see. Oh my God. Can you please go away? Okay. So let's take a look at this. Let's grab a monster. Let's just grab a given monster. I think a boring beetle is good. They're not boring at all. So a boring beetle is worth 90 experience points plus 5 experience point per hit point. So basically, if you've got a boring beetle, and we can look at its hit dice, it's 5 hit dice. So average, that's 20. At 5 per, 20 times 5 is 100 plus 90 is 190. Doesn't sound like a lot of XP for a potentially tough monster. But now let's take a look here. Let's open up the monster manual. I think it's the boring beetle. If it's not, I'm going to switch to another monster. Holder, beetle. So let's look at the boring beetle. Look at its treasure. CRST. It's got some dragon treasure level of treasure. 190 XP for the monster. Let's look at the potentiality of treasure that thing has. Now, something that I want to point out is very important. Also, note the number appearing, 3 to 18. That's 3d6 of these bad boys that can show up. That's important for later. Hey, Tankata, greetings. Welcome back to the chat, my friend. So CRST, let's scroll down in the monster manual and look at what CRST might potentially get us. But there is something very important about this, and we're going to come back to it. But the lesson that I'm about to make here. So, okay, here we go. Treasure type C. 20% chance of 1,000 copper, 30% chance of 20% chance of 1 to 12,000 copper, 30% chance of 1 to 6,000 silver, 10% chance of 1 to 4,000 electrum, 1 to 6 gems, 25%, 1 to 3 jewelry, 20%, maps or magic, any 2, 10%. Now let's look at R, S, and T. R, look at that. Look at R, okay? Gold, platinum, more gems, more jewelry. S, 40% chance of 2 to 8 potions. T, 50% chance of 1 to 4 scrolls. Folks, boring beetles are not boring. They are loaded. Boring beetles have a lot of treasure. Now, the important thing about this treasure is, though, that's not for one. First of all, that's only in its lair. If you just encounter it as a wandering monster, they don't have fanny packs full of this stuff, okay? They don't have backpacks, they don't have a briefcase. These are only in lair. And the percent chance in lair, if we zip all the way back up to the boring beetle, they're devils. See if I can get to this real quick. So the boring beetle, come on down. Percent chance in lair, 40%. So there's a slightly less than 0.5% chance that you're going to run into these things where they live. And then there's 3 to 18 of them. And they're doing 5 to 20 damage per attack, I should point out. They'll mash you in their mandibles. But that treasure, the most boring beetle was Ringo. Boo! That treasure is only given for average numbers of the monsters, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Your takeaway from this should be potentially that there are thousands of gold and thousands of experience points therein for a small number of tough-ish monsters, 3 to 18, 9, 9, 5-hit die monsters. They're dealing out 5 to 20 a bite, so they're kind of tough. But the point is, you get an average of 190 XP per. We figured out that the average appearing is 9. 9 times 190, that's going to be a little less than 1,800. A little less than 1,800 XP. Look at the treasure you get. Hello, Miss Bella Games. Look at the treasure you get. The vast percentage of XP that you will gain potentially, because remember, it's not just a given. Here's 5 gold pieces, that's 5 experience points. That's not a given. Remember, we covered that last week. But the vast amount of treasure you get as an adventurer, or experience points you get as an adventurer in AD&D, is through the acquisition of treasure. Now, let us consider this. Let us suppose, rather than try and fight those boring beetles because they're tough, let us suppose an adventuring party leads them away somehow, dispenses with them, gets them out of their way. That is overcoming monsters. That is avoiding unnecessary encounters and still getting the treasure away. Very important. But the vast amount of XP you will get in a first edition AD&D game, the vast amount of potential experience that you will gain is through the acquisition of treasure, not the defeat of monsters. The treasure that the monsters hold is almost inevitably worth more than the monsters. Contemplate that. Think about that. That's an important fact that you need to know as a DM. Your players will get more for what they haul out of the dungeon than what they kill in the dungeon. So that is some food for thought. That is something you need to keep in mind. Those amounts of treasure given, and we're going to refer back to this again, are for average numbers only. Let's say I roll 3 6s, 18 boring beetles. What do you do with the amount of treasure? 50% more treasure, because it's a tougher challenge. 3 beetles, maybe a quarter of the treasure. Look at the number appearing. Adjust the amount of treasure accordingly. And something else. Look, this just gets my goat a little bit. I'm gonna just mention this one time. I don't like metric amounts of gold. You find 1,000 copper, 4,000 silver, 1,000 gold. 2,000 electrum. Congratulations. Mix it up, guys. As a DM, when you roll that D10 to multiply, roll 2d4. Roll 2 4-sided dice and a d6. I almost said dices. Greetings, Dungeon Minister. How go the preparations? Nervous? Omen Owl, run away with that many beetles. Darn right. Darn right. Yeah, exactly. 1,534. 1,000 gold pieces is boring. 4,000 copper pieces. Well, what are they, just stacked? Do you just find copper piece paper rolls? Volcano God knows exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, so there is the outlay of really how you should be initially by the monster manual doing treasure distribution in your dungeon. $4,000 copper pieces, 40 XP split 8 ways. We aren't taking any of it. That's assuming you get full XP value for it. That assumes that the challenge was worth it. You know, how'd you like to fight the trio Neo Otyugs to find that, you know, you congratulations, you uncovered 6,000 copper pieces. Most parties will never know how much total gold they find. They'll count out what fits in their packs and leave the rest unless they spend hours counting and fighting wandering monsters, which I have had parties do. I don't disagree with you, but I have had parties do. I've had parties walk away from platinum that was under a heavy layer of silver. We want to take this silver? Fuck no. At least sort through it, guys. All right. So let's continue on. Now, you've slain the boring beetles. They were boring. You've done away with them. However, you've done away with them. Let's look now at the gemstones. Let's look at the gemstones because it is not a simple matter of, hey, I brought this diamond that's worth 5,000 gold pieces back to town. So let's see. You're not gonna give me the. Oh, let me see. You're gonna make me rotate. Oh, I hate you to death, Adobe. Okay. All right. So let's see. So treasure. We're going to come back to that. Let me see. Is it under money? There it is. Okay. So you get the big diamond. There's some gem valuation, player character starting money, etc. Base value determination of jewelry. To get XP for this, guys, you got to sell it. You got to sell this stuff. And if you look at the values and you're like, oh, yeah, that's ours. Guys, it's not a given that you're going to get this. First of all, your stones, after you find them, you're like, oh, this diamond's flawless. It's worth 5,000. Oh, it's got a big teardrop shaped hole knocked in it. It's worth 500. Increase or decrease of worth beyond base value. So you get that 5,000 gold piece diamond. Dungeon Master rolls. He gets a 1, 10,000. Roll again, ignoring results above 8. So it could go to 20,000. It could gain 10 to 60,000 more. It could go up a whole nother bracket, Or worst case, its base value is unchanged. Or it could lose value. And some of those could be useful for spells. Absolutely. And we have a similar base value system for jewelry. All that stuff's taking a knocking down there in the dungeon. Might not be worth much anymore. Might be worth up to 640,000. And guys, the resale of this, or any item really, as a dungeon master, you've got to remember your player character's actions. Your player character's actions are going to reflect the attitude of the potential buyer. Is the 6 charisma fighter going to be better at negotiating the prices for gems and jewelry sale back to an NPC? Or is the 18 charisma paladin the painfully honest 18 charisma paladin? All that has to be taken into consideration here, guys. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet by a long shot. First of all, I do want to stop and mention something else. Values of other rare commodities, DMs. When you're stocking your dungeon and you have different... hello, Gumby. But when you're stocking your dungeon and we have those odd collections like a fox pelt, 3 gold pieces. If you say there's 30 gold pieces in the orc lair, why not make it a stack of 10 fox pelts that they pilfered from a hunter that they then disposed of? Look at all the potential values here. It doesn't have to be bags of coins. And then there's value adjustments for those. And then we have things like incense, ivory, spices, perfumes, silk, pepper, rare unguents. Just because you find a dungeon laden with treasure doesn't mean all the treasure is neatly, conveniently stacked piles of coins. Take care, Dungeon Minister. We'll miss you. So, let us then take a look at treasure. Not just money, but treasure. And its placement. Where is it? I thought it was right above that section, but I know how to find it. At least I think I do. Placement of monetary treasure. We are on page 91 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Page 91 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. You know, Kyle brings up a good point. You find 20,000 gold pieces in beautiful rugs scattered across a room, somewhat made filthy by orcs. Gary hits you with that, hits us with that in Keep on the Borderlands. There's a magical shield. I'm not going to tell where, but it's filthy. Party can't tell it's magical until they clean it up. They might walk in and see these mud and soiled rugs and just go, whatever. Let's look under them for trapdoors. Nope. Move on. What if they took them out and hit them with a clean cantrip? All of a sudden, 20,000 gold pieces in Arialax, to quote Taylor Negron. barrels of expensive brandy. So let's talk about how wealth abounds. That's the cup of a carpenter. Bingo. Good call, Kyle. So let's read this because it's important. And Gary does a better job at explaining Gary than I do. By the way, we get kind of low viewer count right now. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I really do. This is important stuff. Wealth abounds. It is simply awaiting the hand bold and strong enough to take it. This precept is basic to fantasy adventure gaming. Can you imagine Fafhrd and Grey Mouser without a rich prize to aim for? Conan without a pouch full of rare jewels to squander? I would say Fafhrd and Mal probably squandered more than Conan. Are there not dragons with great hoards, tombs with fantastic wealth and fellow guardians, rapacious giants with spoils, dwarven mines brimming with gems, leprechauns with pots of gold? Why, the list goes on and on. The foregoing is, of course, true, but the matter is not as simple as it might seem on the surface. First, we must consider the logic of the game. By adventuring, slaying monsters, or outwitting opponents, and by gaining treasure, the characters operating within the milieu advance in ability and gain levels of experience. While AD&D is not quite so simplistic as other games are regarding such advancement, it nonetheless relies upon the principle of adventuring and success thereat to bestow such rewards upon player characters and henchmen alike. Note that's not hirelings, Kyle. It is therefore incumbent upon the dungeon master, therefore incumbent upon the creator of the milieu and arbiter of the campaign, the dungeon master, to follow certain guidelines and charges placed upon him or her by these rules, and to apply them with intelligence in the spirit of the whole as befits the campaign milieu to which they are being applied. What color dragon? Beige. It's an office dragon. Walking around with giant reading spectacles, holding a ream of paper, wearing a chainmail polo shirt. Just kind of stops and looks at you. Do you guys get badged in? I'm going to have a talk with Franex about this. Anyway, why don't you come with me up to the security desk? Hello, Clark. A brief perusal of the character experience point totals necessary to advance in levels makes it abundantly clear that an underlying precept of the game is that the amount of treasure attainable by characters is graduated from small to large as experience levels increase. This most certainly does not intimate or suggest that greater treasures should be in the hundreds of thousands of gold pieces in value, at least not in readily transportable form in any event. But that subject will be discussed a bit later. First and foremost, we must consider the placement of the modest treasures which are appropriate to the initial stages of a campaign. A lot of people take this and run with this as either, Gary couldn't make up his mind what he wanted, or, my God, never give your characters an even break. It says, which are appropriate to the initial stages of a campaign. Well, I was talking more about advancement, Viking. Since you insist that hirelings can advance, they can't. All monsters would not and should not possess treasure. The treasure types given in the monster manual are the optimums and are meant to consider the maximum number of creatures guarding them. That differs with what's in the monster manual, but TSR and Gary later said later books supersede earlier books. So if we're going as close to raw as we can, that considers maximum, not average. Many of the monsters shown as possessing some form of wealth are quite unlikely to have any at all. Look at the percentages. 10% chance for Electrum, I think it was, on Treasure Type C. This is not a contradiction in the rules, but an admonition to the DM to not give away too much. I'm sorry, Orbital. I truly am. Any treasure possessed by monsters will be trifling compared to what numbers of stronger monsters might guard. So in distributing wealth among the creatures which inhabit the upper levels of dungeon-like areas, as well as for petty monsters dwelling in small numbers in the wilderness, assign it accordingly. The bulk of such treasure will be copper pieces and silver. Perhaps there will be a bit of ivory or a cunningly crafted item worth a few gold pieces. Electrum will be most unusual, gold rare, and scarcer still will be a platinum piece or a small gem. Rarest of all, treasure of treasures, the magic item, is detailed hereafter. Placement of magic items. If some group of creatures actually has a treasure of 11 gold pieces, another will have 2,000 coppers, and yet a third will have nothing save a few rusty weapons. Of course, all treasure is not precious metals or rare or finely made substances. Is not a suit of armor of great value? What of a supply of oil, a vial of holy water, weapons, provisions, animals? The upper levels of the dungeon need not be stuffed like a piggy bank to provide meaningful treasures to the clever player character. There's a barrel of spears in a goblin guard room in Keep on the Borderlands, Briark. There's a barrel of spears there. You start rescuing hostages and having hirelings, or even just for your own party, that's an incredible value for a low-level party. Assign each monster treasure or lack thereof with reason. The group of brigands has been successful of late, and each has a few coppers left from roistering, while their leader actually has a small sum of silver hid away, coupled with salvaged armor, weapons, and any odd supplies or animals they might have around. This will be a rich find indeed. And again, guys, we're talking about low-level adventures. The giant rats have nothing at all save a nasty, filthy bite, but the centipedes living beneath a pile of rotting furniture did for an incautious adventurer some years ago, and his skeletal remains are visible still, one hand thrust beneath the debris of the nest. Hidden from view is a silver bracelet with an agate, the whole thing being valued at 20 gold pieces. Thus, intelligent monsters, or those which have an affinity for bright, shiny objects, will consciously gather and hoard treasures. Others might have some incidental remainder of their natural hunting or self-defense or aggressive behavior or whatever. Naturally, some monsters will be so unfortunate as to have nothing of value at all despite their desire to the contrary, but these creatures might know of other monsters whom they hate and envy who do have wealth. In more inaccessible regions, there will be stronger monsters, whether due to numbers or individual prowesses and material. These creatures will have more treasure, at least those with any at all. Copper will give way to silver, silver to electrum, electrum to gold. Everyday objects which can be sold off for a profit, the armor and weapons and such like, will be replaced by silks, brocades, tapestries, and similar items. Ivories and spices, furs and bronze statues, platinum, gems, and jewelry will trickle upward from the depths of the dungeon or from the fastness of the Wilderlands. But hold, this is not a signal to begin throwing heaps of treasure at players as if you were some mad Midas hating what he had created by his touch. Always bear in mind the effect that this successful gaining of treasure, of any treasure or set of treasures, will have upon the player characters and the campaign as a whole. Remember, this is about ordering your campaign as a whole, guys. A pair of exceedingly large, powerful, and ferocious ogres have taken up abode in a chamber at the base of a shaft which gives to the land above. From here they raid both the upper lands and the dungeons round about. These creatures have accumulated over 2,000 gold pieces in wealth, but it is obviously not in a pair of 1,000 GP gems. Rather, they have gathered an assortment of goods whose combined value is well in excess of 2,000 gold nobles, the coin of the realm. Rather than stocking a treasure which the victorious players can easily gather and carry to the surface, you maximize the challenge by making it one which ogres would naturally accrue in the process of their raiding. There are many copper and silver coins in a large locked iron chest. There are pewter vessels worth a fair number of silver pieces. An inlaid wooden coffer worth 100 gold pieces alone holds a finely wrought silver necklace worth an incredible 350 gold pieces. Food and other provisions scattered about amount to another 100 or so gold nobles value, and one of the ogres wears a badly tanned fur cape which will fetch 50 gold pieces nonetheless. Finally, there are several good helmets used as drinking cups, a bardiche, a two-handed sword with silver wire wrapped about its hilt, and a lapis lazuli pommel to make it worth 3 times its normal value, which will complete the treasure. If the adventurers overcome the ogres, they must still recognize all of the items of value and transport them to the surface. What is left behind will be taken by other residents of the netherworld in no time at all, so the bold victors will have quite a task before them. It did not end with the mere slaying of the ogres. In like manner, the Horde of a Dragon could destroy a campaign if the treasure of Smaug in The Hobbit were to be used as an example of what such a trove could contain. Not so for the wise DM. Here she will place a few choice and portable items, some not so choice because they are difficult to carry off, and finally top, or rather bottom and top, of the whole with mounds, piles, and layers of copper pieces, silver, etc. There will be much there, but even the cleverest of players will be more than hard put to figure out a way to garner the bulk of it after driving off, subduing, or slaying the treasure's guardian. Many other avaricious monsters are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to help themselves to an unguarded dragon horde, and news travels fast. Who will stay behind to mine the coins while the rest of the party goes off to dispose of the better part of the loot? Not their henchmen. What a problem. In the event that generosity should overcome you and you find that in a moment's weakness you actually allowed too much treasure to fall into the player's hands, there are steps which must be taken to rectify matters. The player characters themselves could become attractive to others seeking such gains. The local rulers will desire a share. Prices will rise for services in demand from what now wealthy personages, etc. From these now wealthy personages. All this is not to actually penalize success. It is a logical abstraction of their actions. It stimulates them to adventure anew, and it also maintains the campaign in balance. These rules will see to it that experience levels are not gained too quickly as long as you do your part as DM. Guys, I couldn't make it clearer. I couldn't make it clearer. Convenient boxes and bags and jars, or even piles of treasure, should never just dot your campaign. And if you say, well, the kingdom's just going to tax them, that street whore is going to find out that Bob the thief, he's a wealthy man. She's going to charge $1,000 or 1,000 gold a night for her services. That's penalizing the players for getting the stuff. And bringing this into gold for XP, so many DMs who moved on to better versions of Dungeons and Dragons and bitched about Monty Hall level stuff. They never read this. They never apprehended this. They never understood this. I want you to do that. I want you guys to realize the dungeons aren't giant slot machines tilted in the favor of the players. This is a game for clever players. It's so 180 degrees from what the game became. And I even think the designers of third and third and a half, especially the designers of fourth and fifth, well, I don't know that much about fifth, but especially the designers of fourth, literally didn't know these passages existed. Well, I heard that in D&D, a tribe of kobolds could have 6,000 gold pieces, and that's Monty Hall, and that just breaks it. So, yes, it did, Bob. Fourth did suck. Placement of magic items. Just as it is important to use forethought and consideration in placing... I'm going to move this over here a little bit because that's killing my neck. And I'll put you guys over here. I can see what you guys are saying easier than I can try and read across. Just as it is important to use forethought and consideration in placing valuable metals and other substances with monsters or otherwise hiding them in dungeon or wilderness, the placement of magic items is a serious matter. Thoughtless placement of powerful magic items has been the ruination of many a campaign. Not only does this cheapen what could be rare and precious, it gives player characters undeserved advancement and empowers them to become virtual rulers of all they survey. This is in part the fault of this writer who deeply regrets not taking the time and space in D&D, Gary's talking about original D&D there, to stress repeatedly the importance of moderation. Powerful magic items were shown, after all, on the tables, and a chance for random discovery of these items was given so that the uninitiated DM cannot be severely faulted for merely following what was set before him or her in the rules. Had the whole been prefaced with an admonition to use care and logic in placement of random discovery of magic items, had the intent, meaning, and spirit of the game been more fully explained, much of the giveaway aspect of such campaigns would have been willingly squelched by the DMs. The sad fact is, however, this was not done, and so many campaigns are little more than a joke, becoming something that better DMs jape at and ridicule, rightly so on the surface, because of the foolishness of player characters with astronomically high levels of experience and no real playing skill. These godlike characters boast and strut about with retinues of ultra-powerful servants and scores of mighty magic items, artifacts, relics adorning them as if they were Christmas trees decked out with tinsel and ornaments. Not only are such Monty Hall games a crashing bore for most participants, they are a headache for the DMs as well, for the rules of the game do not provide anything for such play. No reasonable opponents, no rewards, nothing. The creative DM can, of course, develop a game which extrapolates from the original to allow such play, but this is a monumental task to accomplish, even with passable results, and those attempts I have seen have been uniformly dismal. Now, this next paragraph has less to do with treasure. Where's my pointer? There it is. Has less to do with treasure. But it really knocks into a cocked hat the, Gary hated fun. Gary was the fun police. Another nadir of dungeon mastering is the killer dungeon concept. These campaigns are a travesty of the role-playing adventure game, for there is no development and identification with carefully nurtured player personae. In such campaigns, the sadistic referee takes unholy delight in slaughtering endless hordes of hapless player characters with unavoidable death traps and horrific monsters set to ambush participants as soon as they set foot outside the door of their safe house. Only a few of these killer dungeons survive to become infamous, however, as their participants usually tire of the idiocy after a few attempts at enjoyable gaming. Some lucky ones manage to find another, more reasonable campaign, but others, not realizing the perversion of their DM's campaign, give up adventure gaming and go back to whatever pursuits they followed in their leisure time before they tried D&D. AD&D means to set right both extremes. Neither giveaway game nor the certain death campaign will be lauded here. In point of fact, DMs who attempt to run such affairs will be drumming themselves out of the ranks of AD&D entirely. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons aims at providing not only the best possible adventure game, but also the best possible refereeing of such campaigns. I do not know Ed Greenwood, Bob. So Gary gets back onto placement of magic items. Initial placement of magic items in Dungeon and Wilderness is a crucial beginning for the campaign. Oh, I probably should zoom that in better for you guys. I'm sorry. Was great. It is great. It's great right now. You can still buy it. Get a group. Run a group. It's still great. Bob, have you heard the live interview I did with Gary back in 2002? It's on the YouTube page. You should check it out if you have it. Initial placement of magic items in Dungeon and Wilderness is a crucial beginning for the campaign. In such places, note, he says beginning here. In such places, you must never allow random determination to dictate the inclusion of any meaningful magic items. Where beginning low-level player characters are concerned, this stricture also applies to the placement of any item of magic. Furthermore, you need never feel constrained to place or even allow any items in your campaign just because it's listed in the tables. Certainly, you should never allow multiplicity or possibly even duplication of the more powerful magic items. To fully clarify this, consider the development of a campaign as follows. You're subscribed, right, Bob? You didn't just like walk in to our little coffee house off the street. I mean, it's fine if you did. I'm just going to say, if you haven't, please click subscribe. If you haven't already. Let's see. In stocking the setting for initial play of the campaign, you must use great care. Consider the circumstances, the milieu, and the number of player characters who will be active in it. Then, from the lists of possible items, choose a selection which is commensurate with the setting and the characters involved. For example, you might opt for several potions, a scroll of one spell, a wand, a pair of boots of elven kind, several +1 magic arrows, and a +1 magic dagger. As these items will be guarded by relatively weak creatures, you will allow only weak items. The potions will be healing, heroism, levitation, or the like. The spell on the scroll will be low level, first or second. If you do decide the placement of the wand is appropriate, you will make certain that its guardian will use it in defense, and the instrument will have few charges left in any event, with a power which is not out of line with the level of the characters likely to acquire it. The magical boots will be worn by a denizen of the area. While the magic arrows might not be used against adventurers, the +1 dagger will be. With all of this in mind, you place the items in the countryside and upper first level of the dungeon-like setting. You never allow more than a single item or grouping, such as 3 magic arrows, to a treasure, nor more treasures with magic items than 1 in 5 to 1 in 10, as this is an initial adventuring setting. As the campaign grows and deeper dungeons are developed, whoops. Where did it go? I bumped the space bar and I think it paged it down. As the campaign grows and deeper dungeons are developed, you exercise the same care and placement of selected and balanced magic items. Of course, at lower levels of the dungeon, you have placed more powerful single items or groupings of disparate items, but they are commensurate with the challenge and ability of the participants. Guardians tend to employ the items routinely, and others are hidden ingeniously to escape detection. Likewise, in the expanding world around the starting habitation, you place monsters and treasures, some with magic. You, the DM, know what is there. However, as you have decided what it will be and have put it there for a purpose, whether for the overall direction of the campaign, some specific task, or the general betterment of player characters to enable them to expand their adventuring capabilities because they are skillful enough to face greater challenges if they manage to furnish themselves with the wherewithal to do so. In those instances where a randomly discovered monster has a nearby lair and somehow this lair contains treasure, do not allow the dice to dictate a disaster for your campaigns. If the result calls for some item of magic which is too powerful, one which you are not certain of, or one which you do not wish to include in the game at this time, you will be completely justified in ignoring it and rolling until a result you like comes up, or you can simply pick a suitable item and inform the players that this is what they found. It is only human nature for people to desire betterment of their position. In this game, it results in player characters seeking ever more wealth, magic, power, influence, and control. As with most things in life, the striving after is usually better than the getting. To maintain interest and excitement, there should always be some new goal, some meaningful purpose. It must also be kept in mind that what is unearthed is usually underappreciated. Unearned is usually unappreciated. What is gotten cheaply is often held in contempt. It is a great responsibility to dungeon master a campaign. If you do so with intelligence, imagination, ingenuity, and innovation, however, you will be well rewarded. Always remember this when you select magic items for placement as treasure. Guys, I can't make it any plainer than that. I cannot make it any more plain than that. Do not, hey George, do not flood your game with magic treasures. Do not set out convenient pallet piles of loot to be carefully picked over by a party. Now, one admonition that I want to give you guys, of many, is when it comes to the question of modules, because modules, to look at the G series, they'll list piles of thousands of gold pieces. There's two things to remember. First of all, those are very difficult and very challenging modules, but also they're not at odds with what's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. You don't like that Nosner has 13,132 gold pieces just in a pile in his treasure room? Make it a pile of mammoth tusks and some ermine and some fox and some silver statues and some finely crafted marble. Use those numbers as baseline. Use the Dungeon Master's Guide as your guide and adjust accordingly. Now, with all of this said, the G series is phenomenal. The G series is really, we actually did a deep dive on GDQ last year, and the G series is without a doubt, the GDQ series is pretty much your college level education in how to dungeon master or play first edition AD&D. By the time Loth dissipates, or your party is slain by her, or the Drow, or the Kutoans, or the Fire Giants, or the Frost Giants, or the Hill Giants, you will have had your player ability stretched. But anyway, just use wisdom when you're placing your treasures, guys, I think is what Gary is saying here. No ATMs, no convenient bank vaults. And again, if you're looking at things like I don't know. Tomb of Horrors. There's a treasure in Tomb of Horrors worth, I think it's 250,000 gold. It's the platinum lining of a Acererak's vault. You have to get it out of there. You have to figure out how to get it off the walls. There's not 250,000 gold pieces stacked up conveniently in the corner. So keep that in mind, guys. Important advice. And that goes back to what I have said all along, and I touched on it a little tonight, that the people who have spent nearly 50 years groaning about first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and you know what? BECME and OD&D people and 2 EAD&D people, I'm looking at you too. I'm looking at you too, who said that AD&D was a Monty Hall game. You didn't read the Dungeon Master's Guide very carefully. Your advancement should be slow, because the Dungeon Master should be carefully considering the placement of treasures. He should be carefully considering your performance as a player. He should be carefully weighing the relative challenge of, okay, 10,000 gold pieces. You got 10,000 gold pieces. Did you take it off of 24 goblins, or did you have to fight 2 green dragons? That's the lesson in these 2 live streams, guys. I've actually never played Tomb of Horrors, Bob. I've never played it myself. I've DM'd it a couple times, but I've never had players get all the way to the end. I had a group find false Acererak and flee. I had a group get to the chapel where they had some alignment changes happen. Couple characters got very nearly killed by the lightning bolt that comes out of the altar and flee. So what we've got here, guys, is clearly, if you read the chapters on the awarding of XP, if you read, well, the sections rather, I should say, the sections on the awarding of XP and character advancement, and you read about the placement of treasure, and you understand those, and you follow those rules, even just mostly, you're not going to have a Monty Hall campaign. Guys, the second half of my 9-year running AD&D game, the highest level characters are 9th, and we've been running that for, let me think, 5 years. So you have to consider all of that, guys. Hey, Jack, I got a question for you, unrelated to that, but it does relate to magic treasures somewhat. So maybe it is related to that. My question is this. The thing that we're going to do that I emailed you back about tonight, that you emailed me about yesterday, the answer is yes, absolutely. Are we going to offer those to anyone else? Or is that just a you and me thing? Just let me know. Now, one thing I do want to look at this. Okay, we're going to completely shift gears and we're going to focus strictly on the character real quick. I talked to Gary about this, and if you listen to the interview where I asked him if he looked back in retrospect and felt like AD&D needed a skill system, he was definitely not. He did not think. Excellent, Jack. Just in time for the holidays. I'll email you about that. It's like your parents talking about Christmas presents in front of you when you were a little kid, and you're like, what are you guys talking about? Nothing. But anyway, let me actually bring that back up. I mean, a ridiculous one-off Monty Python game can be kind of fun. But let's look at this real quick. Now, when I sit down and I DM First Edition AD&D, if you want to tell me kind of a couple of cutesy things about your characters, it's absolutely okay. I am not like, don't you dare. I don't want to hear a word of backstory out of you. But on the other hand, if I ask you what your Ranger's like, you know, you're not your, I'll never say backstory other than I don't want it. That's every Monday night for 3 to 3.5 hours, Jack, over that time period. But yeah, you know, if I ask you to tell me what your Ranger's like, and you hand me a Word document the size of the Belgariad, we're gonna have words. And mine are usually going to be no and don't. But it is not entirely anathema Chris. Oh, Doomsword, I know that one. A child of two worlds. She was never accepted by elves or men. Let's see. I'm going to add this back again. So, you know, I'll see you guys in a little while. Share, window, share. With her raven hair and her green eyes. Unless she has dimorphism, you know. One eye clear as sapphire, the other emerald green. She trained as a paladin, but her calling was magic. Oh, God, shut up. Why did I ask? Okay. It is possible to kind of bulk up a character a little bit. Now, I do find it interesting that this is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but not so much interesting anymore. Because this is the kind of thing that if it was in the player's handbook, players would do what I just said. They'd go nuts with it. So this is secondary skills. And I know what you're thinking, Bill. You said AD&D doesn't have skills, and it doesn't. There's no skill mechanic. But there can be, somewhat. And I'm going to share that with you. And this is page... Thank you, Adobe, for not showing me what page I'm on anymore. This is on page 12 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Isn't the new reader so much better? So let's take a look at this. Player character... Oh, I'm going to edit. Hey, what the players do at the table as far as interacting with each other, I don't care. So player character non-professional skills. When a player character selects a class, this profession is assumed to be that which the character has been following previously, virtually to the exclusion of all other activities. Thus, the particular individual is at first level of ability. However, some minor knowledge of certain mundane skills might belong to the player character. Information and training from early years or incidentally picked up while the individual was in the apprenticeship learning his or her primary professional skills of clericism, fighting, etc. If your particular campaign is aimed at a level of play where secondary skills can be taken into account, then use the table below to assign them to player characters or even henchmen if you so desire. Assign a skill randomly or select according to the background of your campaign. To determine if a second skill is known, roll on the table, and if the dice indicate a result of 2 skills, then assign a second appropriate one. Ah, yes, it is. Oh, no, it's for player access. Ah, what have you done, Jack? So this is for the DM to pick, Jack. So we have some useful stuff here that you can give to player characters to help them along, possibly. We have Armorer, Bowyer Fletcher, that's making bows and arrows. Farmer or Gardener, a fisher with netting. Forester, Gambler. Hunter, Fisher, hook and line. Husbandman, animal husbandry. You know how to tend animals. Jeweler, lapidary. Leather worker or tanner. Limner or painter. It's like people who illuminate books or paint portraits and landscapes, whatever. Mason or carpenter, a miner, a navigator of fresh or salt water, a sailor fresh or salt water, a shipwright of boats or ships, tailor or weaver, teamster or freighter, trader or barterer, trapper or farrier, furrier is different, they work with iron, woodworker or cabinet maker, and then we have no skill of measurable worth, or roll twice, ignoring this result hereafter. And how might these be useful? How might these be useful? Well, let's see. When secondary skills are used, it is up to the DM to create and or adjudicate situations in which these skills are used or useful to the player character. As a general rule, having a skill will give the character the ability to determine the general worth and soundness of an item, the ability to find food, make small repairs, or actually construct crude items. For example, an individual with armorer skill could tell the quality of normal armor, repair chain links, or perhaps fashion certain weapons. To determine the extent of knowledge in question, simply assume the role of one of these skills, one that you know a little something about, and determine what could be done with this knowledge. Use this as a scale to weigh the relative ability of characters with secondary skills. Roll a d6. But, you know, if the characters are like, hey, could we set up a net to drop on the kobolds? And Ethel, she has Fisher netting. Sure, you can do that. You know how to handle a net. Sure. Hey, can we set up a net to fall on the kobolds? Let's see, you're a gambler? You think you got a pretty good chance of it, but you don't know how to do it. You know, a minor character might know whether or not a given tunnel is safe. But here's the thing. Don't look at this and tell the players, okay, you know the kobolds are coming this way, so you know you can make a net. Let them decide whether or not they're going to do that. Let the guy with the minor ability decide whether or not he's going to try and figure out if this tunnel is safe enough. Don't hand them anything. Oh, God, Hypercam, why? Oh, no. Oh, no. James Mason. Never fear, I'll have your wall repaired soon enough. I cannot emphasize the need to put brickwork here. I'm James Mason. Hello, Tommy Dye. Orbital Air, you would nip that attack in the bud. I'm James Mason. So I just wanted to touch on secondary skills too while I was here. While I had you guys here. Come on. Yeah, I mean, if someone was in the wilderness, you know, a ranger with the Bowyer-Fletcher skill would be potentially set for a long time. So, with all that said, I mean, we're definitely gonna cover. We have not. We have not yet begun to cover how to dungeon master, but I hope we've embraced the totality that is treasure, the placement, the value, the XP, the leveling. It is by Gygax alone I set my mind in motion. It is by the placement of treasure the XP are awarded, the awards are counted, the counted leads to the leveling. It is by Gygax alone I set my mind in motion. Well, he might potentially have hunting skill. I've always deemed that if a person is going to go stick his head into a treasure-filled hole in the ground for a living, they can probably climb a tree, swim a river, ride a horse, make a fire, catch squirrels. But listen, don't struggle to remember what I've said. Don't be out there going, oh man, I got to go back and watch that video before ADM did it. It's in your Dungeon Master's Guide, guys. It's on those pages. So, excuse me. So just read the Dungeon Master's Guide. It is a poorly laid out but incredible city to explore. And I have had a Dungeon Master's Guide for 40 years. 40 years. 40 years. Because I got mine when I was 13, I think, maybe 12. So, anyway, and I never tire of finding new things in it. If a person has never seen a horse, I mean, I suppose so. If you're running your campaign where there's people who've never seen horses, that's up to you. Omen Owl, it absolutely is. Speaking of birds and omens, I got to share this with you guys. There was some roadkill in my neighbor's across the street, up the block a little bit, my neighbor's yard this morning. And some buzzards were having a go at it in the yard. All on the guy's roof are buzzards just kind of waiting their turn. It was grim. It was so grim. Look, like, you guys are a day late. That would have been fantastic yesterday. But anyway, so what do you guys have any questions? Ask me any questions. Chat me any supers. There I go again. By the way, there's something I want to mention while you guys are deciding. This is sort of decidedly show related, but I do want to bring this up because I feel bad about this. If you are a supporter, a Patreon supporter at the $10 level, or I should just say a patron. If you're a patron at the $10 level, the Master Thief level, or you are a YouTube subscriber, a YouTube membership member at the $9.99 level, late last night, of course, you would have gotten your October mini AD&D module. I did not do a good job on it. I'm just going to say that flat out. You're going to get a November module. It's not going to be like November 30th at 11:59 at night. You'll get it mid-November, I promise. I've never sent a Tarask at the group, I must tell you. But anyway, I did not do a good job. I will set about to fixing it, to putting a proper cover in it, to making it flow a little bit better. So I apologize to my patrons, to my membership folks. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, every month at the $10 level for our patrons and for our YouTube members, I will send out in PDF form a first edition AD&D module, a short form first edition AD&D module. Do I have any tips for making interesting random encounter tables? I mean, what kind of random encounters? Monsters or NPCs? Generally speaking, look at the environment you're in. First and foremost, look at the environment you're in. You're in a pyramid structure. Not a pyramid scam, but pyramid structure. What are you going to run into? And it's in a desert, Egyptian setting. What are you going to run into in there? Well, mummies, asps, spiders, maybe some kind of sand elementals, things like that. What are you not going to run into? Water weirds, treants. Look first and foremost at your environment and your level. So that is my my biggest piece of advice. And don't be afraid to take subsets of your tables from the Dungeon Master's Guide when in doubt. Also, when in doubt, just re-roll if you don't like what you got as a DM. Dung beetle. Exactly. That's right. Monster Manual 2 does have tables based on terrain and climate. So does that. Well, it expands on the ones in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Remember, the Dungeon Master's Guide tables aren't just like, well, you're in mountains, so here's stuff that can. It's like, are you in freezing cold mountains? Are you in tropical mountains? Are you in mountains that are sylvan in nature? Are you in mountains that are of like a Lost World dinosaur era? You know. So food for thought. Let me ask you guys a question while you guys come up with questions to ask me. An outdoor wandering monster can be of any level if it is terrain appropriate. That's right. Also, guys, when you're rolling a random encounter wandering monster, especially out of doors, maybe a little less a dungeon, but especially out of doors, roll its percent chance in lair. Roll its percent chance in lair. Maybe that huge ancient red dragon is watching you from a hilltop ruin that it lives in. But my question to you guys is, does anybody here like or read the Harry Dresden Files? My preferred campaign setting dying breed is Greyhawk. I love Greyhawk. The thing about it is, I'm a Greyhawk folio box set, Dragon magazine, and modules guy. I don't like, it's like Greyhawk Wars, Die Vecna Die, all post early 1E AD&D. Oh, I'm sorry, GM. I am so sorry. Screw with their heads. Flip the armor classes back the way they should be. Tell them that there's just one spellcasting class when it comes to non-holy magic. The magic user. Use Desperate XP tables. Yeah, Greyhawk is just my happy place, you know. But and I always found it was interesting, and I've shared this with you guys before, right on the stream. I've gone out and I've tracked it down, but Greyhawk matched. It didn't exceed, but it matched Forgotten Realms sales all through the life of TSR. Rather a lot like people never read the first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide and understood it. So they made base and dumb and wrong assumptions about it, about how AD&D worked. People just made the assumption that because they were seeing Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, that it was eating Greyhawk's lunch, and nobody really played Greyhawk. They'd all just switched over. TSR was pushing it because those two were popular because of the novels. But the reality is Greyhawk stayed popular. Greyhawk stuff sold. When TSR would release new Greyhawk stuff, it sold. And yes, even after Gary. People liked Greyhawk, and they kept playing Greyhawk. I mean, the Wizards of the Coast people, when they came in and they took everything over, they didn't they didn't just throw away. They didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater is what I'm trying to say badly. They said, well, we're going back to the dungeon. What's the best dungeon setting? Greyhawk. It's a default setting of 3rd edition and 3.5, which apparently pissed people off. I neither know nor care. But my Forgotten Realms and blah, 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 No to both, Robert. Now, I will say that I have talked to people who said, look, if you just stick to the gray box of Forgotten Realms, just stick to the gray box that came out in early 2nd edition, it's awesome. It's very gritty. It's very Greyhawk-like. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, they definitely, after Gary left, there were a series, there was Puppets, Gargoyles, Child's Play, and I want to say 1 or 2 other modules, and then there was that abomination, Castle Greyhawk, which was landed with a wet thud. Well, one thing I can guarantee you, though, is that Wizards of the Coast is never going to return to Greyhawk, revisit Greyhawk as a setting. They will cannibalize it. They've turned Bigby into a gnome. They've got that idiotic, Tasha's book of, or Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, or whatever it is. Which that's one of the nicknames of Igwilv. They've got, I don't think there's an edition of D&D that Wizards of the Coast hasn't, at the very least, done an electronic reprint of Against the Giants for. 2nd edition had Against the Giants. 3rd edition, like I said, did it like an electronic, like you could get the maps and conversion PDFs for Against the Giants. And then it was in 4E, I think, same thing. And 5E's got it in Tales of the Yawning Portal. Any chance of a dice stream? Dice are... I have nice dice. I do have some nice dice. I can talk a little bit about them, but not authoritatively. I can tell you where I got certain dice and which set certain dice came from. But after that, I can try and chit chat about it some, but a whole stream? I don't know. One thing I can tell you is, I've gone blank. I talk about this dude all the time. Threshold Dice Works makes replacement Holmes D&D dice, but he's also shifted into making replacement basic, like Moldvay basic set dice. They're of much more durable plastic, but he says they have the same weight and feel as the old ones do, and he absolutely has the color, shape, and size down pat. So check out Threshold Dice Works on Facebook, or I think he's also on like Etsy or something like that. I got the collecting bug. Or you got the collecting bug. Cheese Wagon, I hope so. I sincerely hope you're right. No, you're right, Omen Owl. They don't support it. They don't support settings. Remember, guys, Wizards of the Coast wants you to play 6 hours and then quit playing D&D. They want you to come in, dump a bunch of money on a virtual player's handbook, dump a bunch of money on pay-to-win shit on their virtual tabletop, and then leave. That's what they want. The level of campaign that I run, Wizards of the Coast employees couldn't handle. They could never make a Bill Sylvie level campaign in terms of length and complexity. They couldn't handle it. They don't have the mental power to do it at Wizards of the Coast. They don't have that Gygaxian mindset. Get on my level, Wizards of the Coast, and then talk to me about what you're doing with Dungeons and Dragons. Otherwise, Bafangu. XP bonuses for things such as good role-playing, innovative playing ideas, and other... Okay, so Jack touches on something we discussed last week. And you have to understand, you need to look in the right end of the telescope to completely comprehend that, yes, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons does do XP rewards for good role play. And it does it by providing the players grades for how well they played. Okay, so if you pissed off and badly role played, and it's going to take you 3 weeks to level at 1,500 a week, that's going to be 4,500. Your gold that gave you XP is worth less because you're burning more of it to have to level up. When Bob the Strong-Hearted, who's attentive, who only looks down at his hands to write down notes, never at his phone, and his fighter fights, or his cleric is holy, or his thief is a little filcher, or his magic user summons forth arcane powers, their XP, or their GP, is worth more because their training time is shorter, because they are role-playing in a superior way. Ergo, they are getting bonus XP because they're not burning all their gold to train, to level. Hence, first edition AD&D rewards good role play by letting you keep more of your gold pieces ipso facto XP that you've gotten. Brilliant, no? You're welcome. Oh yeah, Cheese Wagon. It's the best. It is simply the best. But Death Angels, you have to you must step out of your literal mind for a moment and embrace the simplicity of 1 gold piece equals 1 XP. Once you do that, you'll just feel it all flow into you as a player. Just let that simmer, let that percolate in your mind. You will come to accept it. You will embrace it. Trust me on this. Have I ever led you astray? So, more questions. 15 or 30 minutes more now. So, ask away. Ask away. Let's see. No, it's race for class. Thank you, Dying Breed. Have a lovely evening. No. I merely have a dungeon hallway. It's the players who walked down it. Jack, I would, in a convoluted, roundabout way, I would consider that part of excellent play. The player who came up with that would rate an excellent rating. And if they go out for, say, 5 sessions, and they're hitting me with those ideas every time, and I'm assigning an excellent rating, that's 5 over 4. Guess what? They now only have to train for 5 days. Every fraction of a day or day thereof. And they spend less. So yes, I would reward it. I wouldn't simply hand out a parcel of 500 experience points, but they'd feel it. I'd make sure they felt it. Wandering Monster rolls through and demands to know my top 3 modules. Very well, you Wandering Monster. B2, Keep on the Borderlands. S2, White Plume Mountain. G123, Against the Giants. So there you go, Wandering Monster. Cheesewagon says he enjoys races class. You're going to get some heat for saying that. Well, I mean, it's an artifact of how old D&D was played. And if you play that version of D&D, then there you go. I would absolutely not put that in AD&D at all. It completely does not function with how AD&D functions. But they're different games, and it's perfectly fine. If somebody sat down and said, hey, I'm running a basic expert game where there's racist class, do you want to play that? Sure. And I accept it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's something that works in a game. Hey everybody, it's L. Welcome L with with emotes, everyone. What's that a magic user that you roleplay like he was Jack Vance Dying Earth novel? DM loved it so much he gave me bonus XP for the first time I did a conversation riddled with Vancianisms. See, I guess we do the same things in those situations, but I think there's front loading and there's back loading, and I don't think any one is necessarily superior to the other. Wandering Monsters, what are your top 3 favorite modules? I'll add some water. My throat is starting to get dry. I threw Wandering Monster for a loop. Aki Saki! Ha! What? Come on, man. I'm just ribbing you. Man. It's all fun. I make fun of myself, too. We're all having a good time. Hey, your suggestion about doing the 1 GP equals 1 XP kicked off a 3-hour show that we did last Thursday, and it led into this show that we're doing tonight. I don't like the WSG and the DSG. Namely, they have skill systems in them, which we just discussed why AD&D doesn't need a skill system. And the skill systems in them don't mesh with each other. They just feel very much like 2E books to me. Excellent, Elle. Thank you. They're just not Manual of the Planes. No. By the time you got out to that end of D&D and Gary was gone and the culture in TSR had very clearly changed, I didn't care. I love Expedition of the Barrier Peaks. I think it is phenomenal. Expedition of the Barrier Peaks is an amazing module. So much TSR gonzo in there. So that's what I have to say about that. Keep them coming, guys. Keep the questions coming. Village of Hamlet against Cult of the Reptile God, and you're still thinking about number 3. Solid start. Village of Hamlet, solid start. Very, very solid start. I salute you, you magnificent SOB. Michael Mertig. Also stands for Monster Manual, or M&M's, or M&M. This looks like a job for he. Steel Mongoose. Good morning, be it Mongoose. I don't know. I'm starting to get punchy. Gygax, you magnificent bastard, I read your books. Well, thank you, L. L put himself through hell. No, it does not. Get out. I'm just kidding you, man. I'm just kidding you. But no, I wouldn't say Ruin is $100. One, it's a box set. And I felt pretty marginal saying G123 because that's a mega module. It's a super module. Yeah, I just jumped in. I just jumped in at 12:25, because I told you guys I was going to stream. I said I'm going to stream when I get done, because I was sitting there. I had a stream on, and I was hammering away furiously on the module. And I fell asleep. I paused for a minute, and I did this on my desk, and I woke up, and it was like 12. It was like 20 after 11, and I just went nuts trying to draw the map and finish everything up, and then set up a stream. Bold choice. Descent into the depths. D1. What is it about D1 just standing by itself that you like? I'm keen to know. Tell me. Gamers done quick when they say GDQ. Yes. Is Temple of Elemental Evil on anyone's top 3? That's a tough one. I have a love-hate relationship with that module. Like, it's so deeply ingrained in Greyhawk lore. Like, it is Greyhawk. It is you. When people tell me that they run, nobody tells me this anymore. But I used to see people talking about running, like, oh, I'm running Temple of Elemental Evil, but I'm running it, of course, in Forgotten Realms. I've moved it to so. Like, proud that they just ripped it out of Greyhawk and stuck it somewhere else. Unless you're gutting your Forgotten Realms campaign to make that work. I mean, that is a serious engine swap. By the way, we just got a new patron. Thank you, Witch King of Samra. Witch King of Samra, thank you so much. Who I actually thought was a patron already. I'll have to go back and check. But welcome, and possibly welcome back. Lots of Kyles. Kyle Brink, Kyle Dying Breed. Even this channel has a Kyle. Temple of Elemental Stupidity. I maintain that the good parts of Temple of Elemental Evil are T1 and anything that Gary wrote. The bad parts are anything that Frank Menser wrote. You might notice that I spit every time I say that man's name. That's not a coincidence. The Rule Cyclopedia are fantasy stereo instructions. It's like if the manual for my surround sound system mentioned orcs and elves. It is dry. It is so dry. It is so dry. It's so dry, I am surprised it did not come vacuum packed in foil. And Steve 1989 MRE has not popped one open and gone, nice hiss. Oh no. No. So reading L's comment there. Wandering Monsters, I want to answer your question honestly. I have a very low opinion of Frank Mincer, a very extremely low opinion of Frank Mincer. For those of you who may have ever wanted Teeth of the Barkesh Noir, Frank's why it didn't get published. Not Gale, not the Trolls. Frank Mincer is why it didn't get published. He got his hands on my manuscript after I'd sent it to Gary and told Gary that I had put a bunch of copyrighted material in the module that would get Gary sued if he published it. Frank lied to Gary. Frank Mincer knowingly lied to Gary about my manuscript because I combed my manuscript after that happened. Cheese Wagon, that's awesome. Steve Marsh is awesome. So if you ever wanted to play the classic Last Greyhawk adventure that I wrote and worked on with Gary Gygax, and it breaks your heart that you didn't get a chance, it would have been published in time. It would have been published in time. And he has done this repeatedly to other writers over the years. I am not his only victim. I don't think Frank is a good guy. I don't. I'll tell you another Frank Mincer story, since you asked. Frank sold photocopies of the T2 manuscript repeatedly. Gary had to get very upset at Frank over that. And Frank made this big production about giving Gary his, I have rescued your manuscript. I will give it to you at Gen Con, Gary. After selling photocopies of it. We're not here to have fun. We're here to game, Michael. I actually had a friend tell me that once. We're not here to have fun. We're here to game. George Laconia, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for hanging out. But anyway, on that happy note, yeah, every copy of Rule Cyclopedia I've laid my hands on, I've sold. I have no use for it. If I want to play basic Dungeons and Dragons, I have the Tom Moldvay and Dave Cook basic D&D. If I want to play introductory Dungeons and Dragons, that Gonzo set by J. Eric Holmes, I have one. If I want to play original D&D, I have that. Rule Cyclopedia confronts me not at all. That's kind of a... You seem angry about Graph Paper Architect, L. Okay, Jack. So, I've got it right here. I'll show you. I will show you. I will show you. See, if this, in another universe, in like a parallel universe, Jack Photon is doing this, and he's talking about the worldwide, hugely popular Star Trek: The Role-Playing Game. And I'm asking him, what about the one that's got like a painting instead of art? And he's like, aha, Bill, I have that set. I also have a complete Star Trek: The Role-Playing Game set. Where is it? It's down there. Courtesy of Jack Photon. It is not. It is not. Holmes introductory. This is the introductory Dungeons and Dragons set edited by J. Eric Holmes. It says basic on it, but this is not basic D&D. This is an introductory set. It's not basic what you think of when you think of basic D&D. This set edited by Tom Moldvay. This is where basic truly began. And then we got, I'm looking for my expert set rulebook. Can I find it without bringing stuff down on me? That's always the key. Can I find it without bringing stuff down? I'm pretty sure it's over here. Well, I don't want to risk bringing stuff down on me, so I'm not going to. But there was a turquoise set, essentially. There was a turquoise box that that Dave Cook and Tom Moldvay edited to go up to like 20th level. Oh. Okay, L. Thank you for the heads up. How is it? Cheese Wagon, it's weird but good. It's really like, unless you sit down and play it, it's kind of hard to describe. It goes hard in the paint as like, look, this is introductory to first edition AD&D. Just cope with it. There's Rangers, Paladins. There's 6 alignments. We do decks versus decks. There's no initiative roll. Gosh, what else is there? I think you have to roll to hit with Magic Missile like you did in original D&D. It wasn't automatically set. So that's basically you know what? If I can get, I can't remember. We've done an unboxing and we've kind of done an Antiques Roadshow. Years ago, I used to do D&D Antiques Roadshow on the live stream, where we talk about the relative rarity and value and so on, but not really so much a deep dive from the rules. Would you guys, maybe in 2024, want a deep dive on Holmes Basic to look at the difference? Because I can do that. Ow. There is a blue box, Jack. It's turquoise. Legends and Lore for $95. That's bonkers. That is wacky. That ever since the OGL implosion, and it was actually Kyle who pointed this out to me. Kyle, my co-host, the day that happened, like in January, when that happened, like the week of the 17th of this year, Kyle went on and AD&D prices just pew. I used to tell people, hey, $30-$40, go get yourself a Dungeon Master's Guide. Another $25, get yourself a Players. Another $30, get yourself a Monster Manual. Boom, you've got enough. Now, holy crap. Deep Dive, Holmes versus Mulvey. No, not the last one. A deep dive on Holmes, though. I could deep dive on Holmes. I don't have any 2E, Cheese. I don't have any 2E. And for just a deep dive on my non-existent budget, I can't really spend the money to get enough 2E and then devote the processor time to fully understanding 2E. I'm not saying like, screw you, I'm not doing that. I just, it's a matter of time and funds. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Take a look around. Do I look like a guy operating on a giant show budget? Because I guarantee you I'm not. I am not. The blue book is Holmes. Yes. Now, who's that? Jack Photon was asking about a blue box. The turquoise box was the expert set box for basic, or expert set D&D. I'm going to find that thing. Try and put my hands on it without knocking things down. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is basically what the box of expert set rules looked like in a nutshell. And this poor thing that's falling apart. This goes up to level, I don't know. Well, clerics can go up to 11, dwarves go up to 12, elves go up to 10. No, I'm sorry, clerics go up to 14. Fighters go up to 14. Halflings go up to 8. Thieves go up to 14. Magic users go up to 14. Not up to 30th as I thought last week. I'm not going to try and cram that in there right now. I'm just going to carefully put that up there. I just wish I had better condition expert set book. MOTP is going for crazy money on eBay. Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah, new TSR was awful. Currently creating a GURPS game based in Greyhawk. Box set and folio, my friend. That's all you need. The box set and the folio. The box set is available on DTRPG. I don't think the folio is. You know what? Let's look. Down, 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 down. Yeah, I don't either, Wandering Monsters. The orange spines are bonkers. Let's see. Drive through RPG. Welcome to the new Drive Through RPG. I don't care. Go away. Let's see. So, Greyhawk Fantasy Game setting. Yeah, it's just the box set. This is not an affiliate link, guys. I don't get anything from them. But if you want it, there it is. Go and get it. It's a nice PDF. Very clean scan. There you go. That's all you need, Darth Brooks. That is all you need. That's, I mean, and the thing about it is, if you're like, well, it doesn't have this, that's up to you to develop. Every hex isn't penciled in. That would be boring. I mean, if you want some Gary written stuff other than the set, but is Greyhawk pertinent, the Giants series, also S4 and WG4. S4, Lost Caverns of Sojkanth, and WG4, Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun. Primo Greyhawk. You're welcome. Oh, best Gary modules. B2, WG4, S1. B2, WG4, S1. Quite welcome, my friend. I love Tomb of Horrors. Not just because, like, lol, killer DM, I smash player. Tomb of Horrors is not meant to be a challenge for characters. It is meant to be a challenge for players. I can take a party of experienced players running an 8th level character, each one, and they'll make it out of the Tomb of Horrors. Probably many of them alive, maybe even all of them. I can take an inexperienced group of brand new players who don't pay attention to anything, give each of them 2 12th level characters. They're all dead before the module is halfway over. S1 is meant to challenge players, not as a relative test of character strength. Oh, unquestionably, Cheese Wagon. Unquestionably. That's right, Steel Mongoose, Badfinger. I mean, I understand getting attached to a character. Even Gary talks about understanding getting attached to a character. And maybe use the DM, don't kill them off. It's right in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I agree with him, you know. But by and large, the ballots will come out and the players can start up a new character. Oh, I'm glad you're liking the Gamma World. Darth, we'll be back to it not this Friday, but possibly next Friday. What do I think of U1? That is tough. Okay, so I think on the face of it, U1 is kind of a fun romp. Particularly if you grew up loving the early Scooby-Doo. Guilty as charged. It's set in Greyhawk. There's no reason you can't kick off a Greyhawk campaign that doesn't start there, or that doesn't start at Village of Hamlet or against the Cult of the Reptile God or Keep on the Borderlands if you put that in Greyhawk. Yeah, I mean, you can start it over there. So I have positive vibes and attitudes towards it. The ideal party composition for Tomb of Horrors would be a pair of fighters, one of which should probably be a paladin. At least 2 thieves, a very, very high level cleric, and an exceptionally high level magic user. Minimum. Top 3 monsters. Demons, the huge ancient red dragon, and giant rats. Yeah, Lost Cavern is phenomenal road march. Only ever started once higher than first level. Yeah, interesting. Oh yeah, giant rats. I love them. Let me tell you guys a story. I was running my own Castle Greyhawk game. This is years ago. God, probably 8, 9 years ago. I had a party on the 3rd level accidentally cause a type 6 demon to be summoned. The party had a paladin with them. And because they had a paladin with them, they made it out alive. They walked back up to the 1st level, to the entrance. I rolled a random encounter. 1. What is it? Rats, giant. Number 14. 2 badly injured player characters dragged the other 4 unconscious, like 2 less than 0 hit point party members out. They were average 3rd and a half level. Held off a type 6 demon, nearly died to slightly more than a dozen giant rats. A nerd's nerd. Now, yeah, you can subdue and sell dragons in AD&D too. A nerd's nerd. You know what? I used to say, like, oh, start with basic and then no, jump in with AD&D. Just get in with AD&D. That's right. My wife's cat's in here now. Probably telling me that 2 hours and 21 minutes of live stream is enough. Water spiders. Yeah. Sturges are fun. 1+1 hit die, that's not a big deal. Attack as 4 hit die monsters, land on you, drain, that's a big deal. Rot grubs are a lot of fun. Water weirds. I love the water weird. But a nerd's nerd, I just start with 1E AD&D. And come here and ask a lot of questions. Join us on the Discord. Ask a lot of questions. Despite what you may have heard, people like me who love first edition AD&D want people to learn it and play it. Just full bore AD&D. Look, I know the guys who worked on Osric. I contributed a tiny, minuscule, microscopic bit to Osric. You thought that was your cat, Bella? So I'm not knocking Osric, not by any stretch of the imagination, but man, let me tell you something. Osric is a really good burger chain. Osric is Backyard Burgers of TTRPGs, okay? If you've ever had Backyard Burger, you know how good they are, or were. I don't know if they're still around. But AD&D is that one place in that one town where you can only get their burger. That's where I'm at. That's interesting, Michael. Rust monsters can be brutal, yes. I gotta tell you guys, yeah, the producer ran in with some show notes for me. Meow, 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 meow. I had never used Rakshasas before. I threw some at my party a few months ago in my Castle Greyhawk. They ambushed the party after pretending to be lost adventurers. One of them was fighting a dwarf. If you know anything about Rakshasas, this is what it takes to kill them. It's very difficult. So the party was not having a luck. And I'm looking at this thing's spell ability. I'm like, what would it have memorized on the low level that would be harmful? I mean, obviously, you know, magic missile, stuff like that. But that's too dumb. So I decided the Rakshasa, acting as in, what do they act as? 8-level magic user or something like that? Had 4 shocking grasp spells. He just cast them one after the other. And just kept reaching over and grabbing the dwarf by the top of the head. just round after round. I said, well, after the battle, he looks like he's wearing a fright wig. And the dwarf pisses himself uncontrollably every once in a while because he kept getting his brain electrocuted. Oh, I love the Rakshasa. I love the shocking grasp. Oh my gosh. Oh, AD&D. Yes, you need, I'm sorry, a nerd's nerd. You need Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual. So that is what I'd use. Oh, his beard was like sticking. His whole head, because he had a dwarf full beard and everything, was just like a fright wig. When he took his helmet off, it just. But yeah, the Rakshasa, every round was reaching out, and those are 7+7 hit die monsters. So he was taking automatic 23 points of damage. Because that's 7 times 2 points for each level of Shocking Grasp. And he's a 7 hit die monster, so that's 14 plus 7. I'm sorry, 21. 21 points. And he did it 4 times. 4 times in a row. Just got to picture that bit from, what is his name, Sam Hyde, screaming, "I'm coming to kill you!" and just grabbing the dwarf's head. Also, a nerd's nerd, you should know that we live stream first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons on here on a weekly basis. I think probably Friday we're going to play AD&D, but it's usually on Tuesday. We're not Gamma Worlding this Friday because we got players out and we're kind of at a crux of the Gamma World game, so I don't want them to miss out. Yeah, GM Jack, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, when you want to start adding stuff, Jack Photon's Librams of Gameful Conjurations and Book of Finite Spells. Yes, absolutely. And we have some of those around here to show you. Now, these are PDF only, but I do recommend you send them off to Lulu and get print copies of them. Because, Jack, I don't think you have any copies. By the way, Jack Photon's going to be on the show real soon. He's going to be on real soon. Is it next week, Jack? Because we got Tracy Lesh on tomorrow night. And I think we have you slotted for next week. But if we don't, we'll sort it out. We'll make it happen. But anyway, yeah, Jack has penned, compiled, but still, let's see. I have the Librams up here. I have the other ones in on the table, but come on. It's stuck. There we go. There we are. We have the Libram of Gameful Conjurations. You're going to want to get a copy of that in PDF. We had talked about it, but I couldn't remember if it was next week. I thought it was next week. But we'll get you on the show, Jack. Jack does awesome stuff. Libram of Gameful Conjurations, and some other cool stuff. And I love how these look. I just adore how these look. The PDFs are free on the Internet Archive. That's right. Excellent, a nerd's nerd. Are you on the Discord, a nerd's nerd? I don't share the Discord out much because I'm kind of hot and cold on doing a lot of stuff on the Discord. But if you want to join us on the Discord, say so, and I'll share it real quick. I'll do that later. Got it. So you guys let me know, and you can stick your nose in. All right. Oh, that's not it. Come on. Copy. The Discord. My copy of Libram of Gameful Conjuration is an original. That's how it's got that cool silk bookmark in it. Anyway, there's the Discord, guys. If you're not on the Discord, you can come and chat with us on the Discord. It is the go-to. It is the place to ask questions, because sometimes, like, you can ask a question here, and I'm not being crass when I say this. This just is the function of StreamYard and YouTube working together. If it's not supered, I might miss it. I'm not saying you have to pay me to answer your questions. We've been here 2.5 hours, and I've been answering questions all night, and nobody supered me. But it is entirely possible and plausible that I could miss it. I'm just saying the only guarantee that I won't miss it is if it's got a super chat, because it gets flagged. That's not me saying you have to super chat me to get an answer from me. If you just repeat the question over and over again, I will see it that way too. Please don't misinterpret what I just said as I only answer questions for super chats, because clearly that ain't the case. Oh, I feel you. I feel you, a nerd's nerd. And let me tell you something, my brother. You're going to have to wear that mantle. If you switch your group to first edition AD&D, you're going to have to wear that mantle. Now, I lucked out in that I actually game with a lot of AD&Ders. A lot of them aren't, but a lot of them are. And so I do get to play every once in a blue moon. Last summer, not this past summer, but last summer, and you folks out there on the channel remember this, my wife had to go in for surgery. It was quasi-emergency surgery. She's fine. She's fine. That everything worked out right. So basically for like 6 weeks, I was here at home. She was here at home. But I could not put on my DM's hat. I could not say, okay, 3 hours and I'm not going to pay attention to you, hun. Or I'm DMing the game, guys, but at any minute I'll have to stop DMing the game for a long stretch of time. So one of my players who had never played D&D until he joined my group like 5 years ago and loves AD&D stepped up to be the dungeon master. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. Dan McDougall. Fantastic first edition AD&D DM. So I was able to actually play. And I'm going to tell you something about that esoteric order of nerdity. Gary told me, and you can hear this in the live interview with him over on my channel. Actually, I don't know if we recorded that or not. But Gary did tell me, and you can go listen to the live interview, even if this isn't in there. But Gary told me he regretted doing that, and he never used those. He never used them. He had planned to correct that. Yeah, Michael, Noble Knight. Now, I will say this. Noble Knight knows what they have. They're nice folks, but Noble Knight knows what they have, and they know what current market prices are like. But I do like them. I keep coming to a point where I'm going to say, okay, we're going to wrap up now. And then I see like the number of people watching goes up. And I don't want to just dip on folks if you've got questions. Yeah, Hypercam. He didn't, you know. Thoughts on energy drain? Don't get your energy drained. That beautiful but ghostly glowing apparition that's crying and walking towards you, don't let it touch you. Because he, she, or it is probably hungry for a little bit of your life force, a lot of your life force. That cute little buxom bar wench with the little red horns and the bat wings. Good call, Steel Mongoose. I've got Akira tonight. I mean, I've got my Akira trading cards up there. Yeah, we just sat around talking horror movies last night. But no, energy drain should be feared, and you should do everything you can to avoid having your energy drained. And the people who argue against energy drain are so, I don't know. They're so whiny about it. You can tell that they're 56th level Drow Bard Paladin back in 1987 when they were in junior high or elementary school, probably, than most of them got level drained, and they're still salty about it. It doesn't make any sense. Why would a negative planar creature... Oh, yeah, I don't know why it would suck part of your life away. Why having part of your life pulled out of your body would be deleterious. Oh, what'd you think of the Omen? Are you talking to the 76 Omen? Esoteric? I mean, I don't like it either from a player standpoint, so avoid at all cost. But from a DM standpoint, it is just one of the many tools I have. It's just another thing that can befall the incautious player. Desert of Desolation, I don't know. I mean, it's all right, I guess. That's I1 to 3, right? I mean, if I'd stick it in the Sea of Dust or the Bright Desert. I don't love it or hate it. Well, here's the thing about level drain from Undead. It's fixable. It's a gargantuan pain in the ass, but it's fixable. Stat loss generally isn't. You're going to adventure for the rest of your life hoping you get an Ioun Stone or a Wish, which will only bump it up by 1/10 of a point anyway, or a Libram book or tome. Honestly, there's a white in Keep on the Borderlands. One player was drained dead. A couple of others lost levels. In the space of 2 adventures, they had the XP to level again to get back what they'd lost. And the fighter Doomsword came out better for it because he rolled better hit points on his regained level. My favorite character to play in a campaign, the Paladin. Not surprising, El. I mean, the game has it where you can basically, give me a death saving throw. All right, I failed it. Uh-oh, make another one. I made that one. Okay, make another one. I made that one. Okay, make another one. I failed that one. Uh-oh. I mean, literally, you can just lie there just rolling you have 3 chances to roll a target. And even if once you make it, it resets the counter. 5e has lots of good mechanical bones. That ain't one of them. And the fact that the Dumped has the Void now is a dungeon you can fight. Just the mentality of the people making 5e, I question. They're from the everybody gets a trophy generation, to be honest with you. Ghosts age characters. Ghosts. Yep, 10 to 40 years. 10 to 40 years. Not so bad for a dwarf, elf, halfling, or gnome. Deadly for a half-orc. Dangerous for a human. Hasn't ever really been an issue for me. If by lawful stupid paladins, if by lawful stupid paladins you mean paladins who think that, like, you know, oh, that child stole a loaf of bread, I'll help you erect a gibbet. Or better yet, just hold him down and I'll cut his head off. Haven't dealt with them, haven't dealt with the paladins who are like, if I don't see it, it didn't happen. Like, you know, we're going to take this goblin into the next room and find out what's up the hallway. Yeah, you're not going to torture him. We're going to kill him outright, but you're not going to torture him. Haven't really dealt with, I don't see it, therefore it doesn't happen, paladin. And I haven't dealt with the, well, even though we're in a kingdom that's ruled over by chaotic evil syndics, that's the law here, therefore I have to obey it. Slaves and human sacrifice are the law, and I am lawful good, therefore I must obey the law. Never really had to deal with those. How I would deal with them is I would grab a player's handbook and a dungeon master's guide, and I would take them aside, and we'd sit down, and I would explain to them what lawful good means in AD&D. If they still didn't get it, they would lose their paladin status permanently. Yeah, GM Jacko. Best way to do it, talk to the player. You got it. I know Elle was baiting me here, but I'm going to say that the advantage it has is really, I think the advantage, the best advantage, comes from what it does to neutrality. Neutral good is the best good. Neutral evil is the worst evil. If you're neutral good, you're willing to do anything to make good happen, to neither be too chaotic or too controlling. Good must be advanced. And the converse, neutral evil, is the same. Lawful neutrality is what a lot of people think of when they think paladin. They just don't realize it. That order must be followed regardless. Good must never attain a higher standing than evil. Evil must never attain a higher standing than good. And you accomplish this with order, with rules and regulations to keep everyone in check. And chaotic neutral is the only alignment that anyone who plays 5th edition plays, whether they realize it or not. But I also avoid real-world alignments. Like, wouldn't you say that soldiers in Germany from 1933 to 1945 were actually lawful good? Well, no, I wouldn't. I also wouldn't say that they're chaotic evil. You want to know why? This is a game. And I don't frame real life in game terms. And I don't frame game terms in real life. So when people ask me, what alignment would John Wayne be? Fuck if I know. If human beings have an alignment, it's probably chaotic neutral. Maybe. But I don't think we do. I don't think we're bound to one of 9 axes. But it's a game. It's different. Now, if you ask me what alignment I think Superman is, Superman's a fictional character. That we can do. He's lawful good. Batman is some form of law. But anyway, oh my God, I have been going for 2 hours and 48 minutes. Y'all know the only thing that'll keep me here for the next 12 minutes. So if you want that, do that. I like neutral good as an alignment too. 1E AD&D bards are my next favorite alignment. And that lets you play a neutral good cool guy. Not a neutral good. I want to have relations with everything, which is all 5e bards are good for. Well, horny bard, I will beat you to death with a camera tripod in Minecraft. Sorry, I'm kind of tired. Straight into the marathon. No. I didn't intend to do this. Where did I get my... Okay, I got this at Gods and Monsters. My buddy Todd ordered this for me. I think you can still find companies that do the basic D&D box design. I have some other ones. I have a Dungeon Master's Guide t-shirt that I got when Wizards of the Coast authorized merch. They suck cock, by which I mean chicken now. So a rooster rather. So they don't offer D&D merch anymore. Or if they do, it's awful and based on 5e tropes and memes. My I Heart Greyhawk shirt was... The fellow who sells them actually has been in the stream before, and I can't remember who it is. And I apologize for that. But if you poke around, you'll find I Heart Greyhawk t-shirts. And he has a lot of other cool stuff. Like, I think he's got I Heart Faerun and I Heart some other stuff, too. Not tonight, Wave. The only thing I can think with a horny bard, Miss Bella, is I guess one of the characters in that cartoon based on what's the YouTube show where they play D&D? I'm sorry, it's late. I'm punchy. The bard character in that, like literally in the first show, in the opening moments, he's fucking a woman. In the cartoon, like that's like literally he like plants his face in the crotch of a naked woman in like the first 10 seconds of the show. Critical Role, that's it. It is a trash tier trope. It is garbage cringe, is what it is. If you are like, my tiefling bard wants to sex, your whole body just crumbles. Like, imagine a tinfoil casting of your body. It is so cringe that it just crumples into a ball. That's what you do. Good for you, a nerd's nerd. Mercer is pretty and has a nice voice. Well, what does that say about your watching this show all the time, Miss Bella Games? I'm just curious before we go on. But anyway, so yeah, don't I? So everybody does their bard like that now. Apparently, a lot of this crowd does. That's your politics is impeccable, Miss Bella Games. Thank you. Thank you for easing me to the floor rather than seeing me shattered into a million pieces upon it. Yeah, I'm about to hit 5. Wait, when you say about to hit, I mean, because there's about to hit and then there's about to hit. Let me see. Let's look at, because I can get it a lot more. See, to me, the bard is Feuder Flam. Go read Chronicles of Prydain and tell me that Feuder Flam is not an AD&D bard. He really is. Hashtag horny bards. 49.79. We're sitting at 49.79. So 21. We're 21 subs away. We're basically, I'm back to the subs, like 1 or 2 subs a day. I think it's a little better. It was pretty flat last spring, not this past spring, but a year ago this past spring, where it was like, a week would go by 3 subs. A really busy week, I'd see like 5 subs come in. Now I get like a couple a day, but then I'll get like 49.70. I may wake up tomorrow and it's 49.77, but then by tomorrow night it's back up to 49.79. But I see a few a day, like 2 or 3 a day sometimes. You're not doing it right if you don't get me riled up. Yeah, I never had Divine Right, unfortunately. Horny bards at the Welcome Wench Tavern, maybe. I should do a collab with one of them D&D horror story streamers. There's not streamers, YouTubers. There's actually one guy, and I've talked about him before. Tales Tomorrow is a fun dude. I make fun of him because he's a VTuber. He's got a VR avatar he uses. I like Sir Knox, but I don't know what's going on with him. If he's like had some life stuff going, because he just edits together. He basically removed or privated all of his short form vids, where it was like, here's one story and it's like an 8-minute vid, and is now stacking them all together and uploading them as like 20 and 30-minute vids. I don't know if he's doing that for algorithm churn or what. How much I've heard the horny bards every time, I can't believe it, but I miss bards played by characters that try to speak completely in song. Wow. You do, and I'm subscribed to it. Miss Bella Games. Vidja Games. You have a lot of content, too. Do you ever talk in your videos, or do you just do silent plays? No, I should do a video this week on the earnings call. Esoteric Order says, notice me, senpai. I think I'm subscribed to you. I don't know. I'll have to go look. So I can do this here. I feel like I am. Oh, yeah, I'm subscribed to you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm subscribed to you. Yes, I am. Guys, this is it. I'm auguring in. Okay. Any last minute question? One, I will literally take the next question and I will answer it no matter what it is. Oh, shit. What did I just do? Because 3 hours I've been going, guys. But although, I mean, we probably would have played Conflict this long. Thank you, GM Jacko. Have a good night. Command that I drink water now. That's not so much of a question. You have 50 seconds, anyone to ask me, and then I'm out. 42, L. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you all very much for being here and hanging out with me tonight. I love you all. Have an absolutely fantastic evening. If you haven't, please click subscribe. Please click the bell icon for notifications. And tell your friends to like and subscribe, because when we hit 5,000 subs, you're going to see some serious shit. Good night.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.